I'd like to talk to you about neuroplasticity and the implications of exposing yourself to unhealthy information and media. Neuroplasticity is the term for the recognition that your brain continues to change and grow throughout your life, and that because of this, it can heal and damage at any point in your life. Think of your memory or your brain, perhaps, as like a large metal plate on which you are engraving memories. Each engraving, each memory is grooved into the plate. These memories, these grooves may cross over each other. It might be a confusing, tangling mess. There might be pathways that you take more often, and these will be deeper grooves. And so if you were to throw a marble on the plate, it would be more likely to follow the deepest grooves. And so your daily habits and your thought habits also will follow the most habitual paths. This brings us to the way that you choose to expose yourself to information and media. When we expose ourselves to media that sets us up as competitors with others, we are more likely to be competitive in our lives. There's a great number of people who believe that being competitive is a good idea, because being competitive is almost a guarantee that you will get more than the next guy. Almost. It's contingent upon the implication that you are able to best the other guy if the other guy is also being competitive, and or the only one in the room that's actually doing that. Either way, it's kill, Nice guys finish last, but I'd still rather be nice. Yeah, but so when you engage in a lot of competitive media, you become a more competitive person. So some of the games, for instance, some of the violent games where you're going around killing your other players, for example, might set you up to think of other people as obstacles to be removed. And I'm not saying that you're going to lose your marbles and think you can just run around killing people. I know better than that. But your brain doesn't. And that's the thing the psychologists have determined. Your brain doesn't know better than that. There's two parts of you. There's the emotional, unthinking part, the part that takes over when you're in autopilot and that takes over when you're distracted, the part that you have to apologize for when you've been angry and said things you really, really didn't want to express, but that were really handy ways to inflict pain at the time. That part of your brain doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. And when you offer it fantasy of a certain type of world, it starts to think that that's what the world should be like. And you will find yourself subconsciously creating that environment in some fashion or seeking it. Confirmation bias comes in here. Confirmation bias is the understanding that when you think something should be a certain way, you will pay more attention to evidence that agrees with you. And it will seem to you as though there is more evidence that agrees with you because you've ignored the stuff that doesn't. And it takes an overwhelming amount of contrary evidence for some people to change their mind. And that's confirmation bias. And that is a human habit. And that comes down to those grooves being carved in deeper, those habits. For instance, watching pornography. Let's take pornography now. There's a great deal of pornography out there. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I have explored and examined and researched, if you will, studied, looked, and yea, even used pornography myself. A lot of it's free. But I have noticed that there's an awful lot of misogyny in that world, like severe misogyny. Sometimes when I see some of the stuff that's out there, I go like, does anyone really think the women are having fun? Like, are these women actually enjoying that? They're acting. They're getting paid to act, so they're acting. But does everyone else realize that? That she is having the worst time of her life? That if you put a date through that, you've either groomed an abuse victim or you have sent her running? But then are the women of today watching this and thinking that that's what it's supposed to be like? And if they're watching enough of it and everybody's watching it, that might actually be working for them too. But what happens when, and I noticed after a certain spate of watching a lot of this stuff, that when I went out into the community, I was having my imagination, my animal brain, overlay memories on people I was seeing in the environment. I did not like that. That again was that neuroplasticity in action. And exposing myself to these things was creating that effect. It's why when pedophiles indulge themselves in fantasy expressions of their fetish, they are more likely to eventually hurt a child, because they're increasing the depth of the grooves in their brain that says that's okay, that's desirable, that's normal. When children are raised in a household with a lot of screaming or fighting or violence, verbal or physical, or mistreatment, or growing up watching sitcoms, they don't know that they're being abused. They lack the awareness because it's normal, because their brains got grooved that way. They don't have other paths to follow. And in fact, if you stick them somewhere where those grooves in their brain aren't the proper paths to follow, they stumble, they fumble, they balk, they stall, they can't proceed. Their brains don't have those grooves. And in order to retrain and rehabilitate somebody who has been exposed to that, it takes a long time. They have to work actively on it. They have to have people in their world who are incredibly patient. Frankly, that's really rare, and it usually only works well when it happens young, because the brain grooves are like wagon ruts in a track, and the deeper they get, the less likely that you can ever follow any other path or any other road. Actively attempting to give yourself other paths is possible, and in fact, because of the preponderance of media available to us, it's become dead easy. It's no longer a difficult thing where you have to sit and endure stuff that's difficult. It's much simpler. You just expose yourself to media that expresses and displays the kind of philosophy and paradigm you want in yourself. So, like somebody who wants to become more Christian will expose themselves to more sermons and more hymns and more Bible passages and more church services. So a person who wants to become more philosophical will read more philosophy, and a person who wants to be more peaceful and at calm will, may or can and should access more peaceful and calm exposure, music that's peaceful and calm, videos about things that are peaceful and calm, slow TV, watching a sailboat for 2 hours, doing and engaging in peaceful and calming activities, basket weaving. I know that calling people a basket case is a joke, but it comes from a very real effect of arts and crafts. And baskets are chosen because of their simplicity. You don't have to have presence of mind. It's hard to really make such a phenomenal mistake that you have to undo all your work. When I think about my tatting, my lace tatting, it is it's something I would recommend only for someone with enough patience to rewrite the Bible by hand with a toddler in their lap. It's that kind of difficult. And the doing itself is easy, but the undoing over and over again because you made one tiny mistake is not easy. And yet you must. It's part of the thing. Like when you're knitting, if you cannot learn to unknit, you will never learn to knit. At some point, you have to learn to unknit. At some point, you have to learn to take apart the computer you just finished building, right back to the beginning, and test each component one at a time. At some point, you have to be willing to park the car, put it up on the blocks, and start changing things and fixing things. There are times when you must be able to do that, and your brain is one of them, and you can. And nobody said it was easy. No one said so. But you expose yourself to the kinds of things that create in you the mind that you want. You are more fortunate than any generation before you. When I was a child, Eastern methods like meditation were a quirky, eccentric thing you heard from strange people in the hippies who were still a different group from my world. For me, that sort of thing was this mythical, shadowy whisper on the breeze, this idea of meditating. What a curious thought. I did actually hear about it at a very young age and start practicing it as best I could from what little and looking for more information about it. And that was it. It was really hard to find information on something as basic meditation. It was occultish and strange and even disapproved of. If you were around too many Christians, it was a strange time. You, on the other hand, you can catch a yoga live stream. You can sit down and do a group meditation on the internet with someone. You can host a group meditation on the internet with someone. Or you can just pick up a bazillion videos and books all online on how to meditate. And let me tell you something. There is no recipe. There's no recipe. There's no right way. And nobody ever winds up doing it exactly the same. In the long run, each of us finds something unique about it that is our understanding of what we're doing. And many, many, many of us often find ourselves feeling as though we're cheating. We're not doing it legitimately, or that somehow the way that I do my meditation doesn't count. I mean, it gives to me what I need, and it gives to me what meditation is supposed to give to me, and it provides what I need, but I don't believe I'm doing it right. No, that's okay. You're recarving the grooves. Meditation, if you will, is like polishing the surface. You're not erasing the memories. You're taking out the scratches that came with them. Because the memories remain. They're dyed in. They're still there. It's the scratches from endless use. It's like plowing a field to get rid of the ruts and laying down new sod, if you will. I don't know. It's just a way of like grading a back alley to get rid of the ruts and the washboarding. It's a way of smoothing it out and allowing you to find new ways to walk in your mind, new ways to think. Meditation does that. And tonight, for instance, I learned a new one called slow walking. I urge you to research it yourself. In practice, it almost looks like someone trying to fake slow motion. Okay, now 10x, do it in 10x. And what it really is that you're slowing your motions down to the point where you can notice all of the independent components of the movement that goes into stepping. And you just step a few paces in one direction. And breathe and take a moment, and then you step a few paces in the other direction. And like I say, you're doing it at exaggerated slow-mo speed. You don't want to do this where people who don't understand are watching. because you will feel embarrassed, I'm sure, unless you're like doing it. It's Tai Chi speed. If you've ever seen those Tai Chi groups, and by the way, if there is a Tai Chi group available, there's a really easy solution. Tai Chi is a beautiful form of meditation and mindfulness. Strongly, strongly recommend it. Go for it if you can. It's beautiful. And it's so much easier on the body than yoga or, or Pilates or, or all of these aerobics and things. Much easier. Anyone of any age can do Tai Chi to whatever degree their movement allows them, and it will increase your movement, all while teaching your brain the mindfulness. So that's what the neuroplasticity is. So now if you're out there reading, let's say you really, really want to know what's going on and you really want to keep up with the news and you're just taking it in. You're home from work. You're not used to having to occupy your time. And I mean, come on, that internet just like sucks you in like a face-sucking vampire. Just like, and you're owned. And you look up and it's like, oh, I forgot to eat lunch. And where'd the time go? It's a good reason to try and work on doing some meditation and mindfulness if you're going to waste the time anyway. You should waste it on some calming stuff. And again, that's where you need to start noticing. That's mindfulness. That's noticing what's going on. Notice about yourself. What are you consuming? What are you teaching your brain? If you think of your brain as a child that needs to learn things, what are you feeding it? Are you feeding it fear? Are you feeding it uncertainty? Are you feeding it insecurity? Are you feeding it worry and stress? And what is that stress doing to the rest of your body? Do you understand that stress damages the body? Because of the chemicals that are released, it actually can injure your organs. It can impair your function, because stress is only meant to be a short-term, quick response situation. It's not meant to be carried over the long term. It's supposed to be that something that your body goes and uses. And in the current situation, you're not using it. If you're out there on your treadmills jogging, that's using it. But we really need to use it up. And the less you bring in, the better you're going to be. If you're genuinely staying in place, then you should be looking for funny memes, rainbows in the clouds, resources available to help you get through the rest of the 2 weeks, and ways that you can cheer up the people around you. Not looking for, don't look for your security in the news media is I guess what I really mean to say. It's what you're doing. You're trying to look for a sense of security, a sense that you know what to get prepared for, and a sense that you're not helpless. And it's, in fact, feeding your brain with really nasty stuff. It's like feeding broken glass to your brain, really. You shouldn't do it. Really, don't do it. Remember, your brain, like a vinyl record, you cut grooves into it. And the experiences you feed yourself, the information you watch, and that includes fantasy as well as reality, all of those things shape what your brain's most likely to do as a go-to. Its default. They set the defaults. You need to be much more mindful and conscious so that you can be the person that you dream of being. I know we all start in youth thinking, I'm going to be this kind of person. When I'm old, this is the person I want to be. But how many of us actually continue to focus on being that person? Do we one day say, oh, well, that was awfully idealistic. Nobody can do that. I still think that I'm going to be the person I looked up to in my youth, the person I thought I was going to be. I was like, this is what I'm going to grow up to be. When I'm old, I'm going to be one of these kind of people. And I still think I'm on track to that. No, I don't describe it because, Humility is one of the qualities I'd like to have. And talking about what I'm proud about myself doesn't sound very humble, does it? So, got to pass on that one. Neuroplasticity. And in case you're wondering, I've always had a really high hairline. I used to wear bangs because of it all my life. I probably will lose my hair, but I don't think I'm losing it yet. Just have a lot of brain. It burns. The hair just can't stand it. Too much electromagnetics. Well, my friends, sheltering in place. This actually I'm going to set to come out at the end of the current rotation. So it's going to be a good 3 weeks. 3 weeks from now. Yeah. That's about when I expect us all to start come crawling out of our houses. We're just now in the midst of the tightest thing where all the bars and restaurants in Saskatchewan have just got shut down. So it's, hey, future you. Yeah. If things haven't gotten worse and things haven't gotten better, it might be time for a little civil disobedience. Good luck out there.